I didn't know where God was, but I knew I was far from him. I grew up in a house where religion was always around. My dad was a Methodist, my mom was a Catholic, and I grew up going to a Catholic school and my dad's church on Sundays. From a very young age, my fear was something I couldn't control. It was something so innate to me. I was scared of every single thing a little kid would be scared of, like the dark or scary TV shows or storms. And the fear itself was rational, but the fear response was not. Oftentimes my family would have to take me to the hospital for hyperventilation because my fear got so out of hand. Depression was so natural to me that I felt like I couldn't change anything as much as I would have liked to. And so I began to be angry at myself for what I couldn't change. So I started taking this out on me, and I resorted to self-harming for the next 2 years of my life. I honestly didn't think it would solve much of anything, but it was just the fact that it was some way I could display my anger to myself, and I felt like this was the only way I could tell myself how I felt, and I felt like I deserved it. In an attempt to start over, my parents moved me to a different school where no one really knew my name. It was a fresh start, and my sister was the popular senior at the school, so everyone knew her name, so everyone knew I was just her brother. I went to every single party, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I actually had friends, and I felt like I had someone to go to. So, in an attempt to fit in, I kind of bent my moral code a bit, and I took every single cigarette that was offered to me. I took every drink that was offered to me, took every blunt that was offered to me, and just did what everyone else was doing, because that was the only way I felt like I had friends. What I used to mask my fear and my anger and my anxiety and my depression ended up adding more so to the struggle. And I ended up looking forward to every single weekend as a time to just get high and get drunk and smoke cigarettes until I couldn't feel my lungs. And then it ended up just contributing to my problems even more, to the point of just being in this big hole that I couldn't get myself out of. And one day, all the fear and all the anxiety that I held up for the longest time caught up to me, and I just broke. I woke up in my bed that day with cuts all over my arm, and my mom telling me that I had to move schools again. I felt myself at this low point of not knowing where God was or not knowing who I was, and I had just lost sight of absolutely everything in my life. But out of all that, I had two constants in my life, and that was just my undying passion for music and the fact that someone was always trying to get me to church. And the fact that someone was always trying to get me to church just seemed so absurd to me, and God in a whole just seemed absurd to me, and I wanted absolutely nothing to do with him because I felt like he didn't want anything to do with me. And I hated God, I really did. I found myself at this church event. This pastor was trying to communicate to me, and it applied to me perfectly. And at that point, I realized that I wanted to know what God was about, and I didn't want to know what his law had to say that I had to do, but I wanted to know who this Jesus guy was, so I decided to pursue a relationship with him. And I wanted to know what he wanted from my life, not what I wanted from my life. And for the first time, I felt like I was home. I don't get angry anymore, and I feel like God's just given me the sense of peace throughout all the anxiety and throughout all the fear and throughout all the depression. And I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that all of that's gone, because I still struggle and I still face those things every day. But it's the fact that I have a God that's strong enough to hold up to that, and I also have a group of people that are so willing to just shower me with love and to tell me about how much they're here for me and how much they love me. And it's so great having that and not missing a single thing whenever before this, I felt like every single thing was missing.